Before the killer was ready, he was forced to watch a steamy scene, but he found that his heart rate accidentally rose to 101. Only when his heart rate reached 65, he can accurately fire this bullet, so he forced himself to pause the act to calm down his mood. After all, he had been waiting for 3 days and nights, and he didn't need to rush. When his heart rate returned, he re-aimed the crosshair at the target's head, and decisively pulled the trigger, but unexpectedly hit the girl instead. The killer wanted to shoot again, the bodyguard on the opposite side immediately blocking his sight. The next second, he decisively decided to retreat. He quickly disassembled the sniper rifle. He put on a helmet to cover his face. He followed the stairs downstairs. He unlocked the rented electric bike. He fled quickly before the police arrived. He threw the silencer into the sewer while driving to evade the police's search. He rode an electric bike. He rode around the city's alleys. Until the siren gradually faded away, he took off his helmet and gloves and threw them into the river calmly. Then he found a roadside gas station and to the toilet. He took off his clothes. He repeatedly washed his body with cold water to remove the smoke residue from the gunshot. Finally, he shaved off his beard completely. 5 minutes later, he walked out of the gas station refreshed. Then he took a taxi to the airport without a stop. He took out the pistol to disinfect it and threw it into the trash can at the door. In this way, he successfully disposed of all the tools of crime. He thought he could board the plane smoothly, but found that the ticket counter was guarded by dogs. He turned around and walked into the bathroom. He frantically cleaned his body with cleaner and threw away his beloved bracelet. He finally passed the security check. Before boarding in the toilet, he called the middleman to report that the assassination failed. The other party was angry because the client was very powerful. However, he could only calm down the client first. After hanging up, the killer threw away the card and stepped on the phone. Being careful is his survival rule. After getting on the plane, the killer could finally enjoy a cup of Urwotu. Yes. A man in sunglasses on the plane glanced at him, which immediately aroused his alertness. He kept an eye on the man in sunglasses' whereabouts. He found that the man always appeared around him. The killer thought more and more suspicious, so he immediately changed his flight to the next day to checking into the hotel. He ordered a dinner. After the waiter left, he locked the door tightly immediately and placed a glass on the doorknob and used the lid to hold the door. However, he still couldn't sleep peacefully. He simply held a dagger and turned off the light, sitting on the sofa and closing his eye. Fortunately, the night passed peacefully. The killer finally got rid of the shadow of the man. Then he successfully took a plane back to his hometown. But just as he was about to arrive home, he found some footprints and cigarette butts at the gate. The killer immediately had a bad feeling. He immediately took out his gun and climbed over the wall. When he rushed into the villa, he found no one was at home, but there were overturned kitchen knives and blood on the ground. The bathroom was even worse, which was obviously a fierce fight. He quickly called his girlfriend. He learned that his girlfriend was hurt and was admitted to the ICU. Her younger relative. Last night, a man and a woman broke into the house and left in a green taxi after the crime. Fortunately, his girlfriend survived after rescue. He told the killer, "This is definitely the highest level of being ruthless." The killer directly drove 3 nails into the old black's lungs. Although the old black won't die immediately, he had to endure the pain of suffocation. Then, the killer calmly took out his phone and placed it in front of him, saying that if he confessed the real murderer, he still had a chance to be rescued. Within 8 minutes, Black was breathing heavily and fell to the ground. The killer quickly put a newspaper on the ground so the blood would not spread outward. He told Lauhe that people with healthy lungs can last for 8 minutes unexpectedly. He died of amusement. He told out the Lauhe that smoking outward, so the killer had to push a trash can to transport the body out for destruction. The killer did this because just a few days ago, a man and a woman broke into his home and almost killed his girlfriend. So he decided to find out the mastermind to avenge for his girlfriend. He first found the green taxi company and forced his way into the office. Then, he carefully reviewed all the taxi's driving records. He found the car had left the airport at noon that day, and route for 2 hours, the distance, which was exactly the distance from his home to the airport. So, he carefully remembered the driver's license plate. The next day, he deliberately took the driver's car. After driving for a while, he showed his pistol when the driver saw it and was scared to wet his pants. He quickly told him what had happened. He said 2 people took a taxi that day and asked him to follow the map to a private house. The man was muscular and the woman had white hair, tall and thin. He waited at the door for over an hour. They came back and the man's foot was injured. He said he was just responsible for driving and didn't know anything else. After the killer got the info, he shot the driver in the head because he couldn't tell if whether the driver to avoid him tipping off the killer. He took the most secure method, he thought. This time he had not determined the identity of the killer, but he could be sure that there was someone who must be involved, which was his middleman, so he rented a van and changed the license. Then he paid someone to buy work clothes at the supermarket, tools and trash cans. After everything was ready, he drove to the building where the middleman lived and waited patiently in the car. Finally, the courier came to deliver the mail. When he opened the door, the killer dragged the trash can and followed him. When the deliverman went in to deliver the mail, he began to count the time when the security door closed. Seeing the courier come out, he quickly lowered his head to drink water. He started counting silently in his heart. When the delivery man fully entered the elevator, he began to art. He used his foot to hold the door just before it closed. Then he took the toolbox. He successfully entered the middleman's office. Seeing the killer, the female secretary was shocked, but the killer calmly took his computer and phone and forced him to enter the old black's office. He asked the secretary to tie up Loei's hand and then asked him to tie himself to the sink. But Loei was still acting. He was shocked and didn't know why he would do this. The killer took out a nail gun without a word and directly punched holes in the computer, which scared Loei into telling the truth. It was the failure of the killer's assassination that made the client. To avoid escaping, the client wanted the killer to disappear. Loei also advised the killer to take the money and leave. The money he earned was enough for the rest of life. The woman thought she had escaped the disaster. Although her secretary found out the identity of the mastermind, as a professional killer, she must not have any sympathy. However, the killer helped her die in an accidental fall. In this, her family can still receive a large sum of insurance. After that, the killer took the middleman's body into the warehouse to dismember while boarding the ferry. He threw the murder tools into the sea. Then he found a remote place and buried the body. Finally, he washed the rented truck inside and out and returned it calmly. Next, the killer. After continuous searching, he finally found the Majo's address. Seeing him limping, the killer recognized he was the muscular man mentioned by the driver, so while his accomplice was out gambling, the killer came outside his house and took out the pre-prepared drug-laced dog food and fed it to the dog. Don't barking pit bulls, stop barking. Then, the killer quietly walked into the muscular man's house. He glanced at the sleeping dog, then he took the pistol and carefully walked upstairs. He heard someone watching TV in the room. The killer approached the sound step by step. The killer's gun was knocked down and slid under the bed. The muscular man is strong and accurate, which made the killer powerless to fight back. Fortunately, the killer broke the vase and stabbed the man, and the killer got a chance to breathe. They fought from the room to the living room. The muscular man took out a pistol and shot at the killer. The killer could only hide in the room and retrieved his pistol from under the bed, but the muscular man didn't know it and kept threatening the killer, but it exposed his position. The gunshot immediately woke up the sleeping pit bull. He rushed over like a mad dog. Luckily, just before he caught, the man escaped from the fence. Then he threw a Molotov cocktail and burned down the entire house. After taking revenge, he had a bruised face. He bought a ticket to New York to find the other murderer who hurt his girlfriend. The first thing he did after getting off the plane was the same. He rented a van under a fake identity, sitting in the car and waiting for 3 days. He finally saw the white-haired woman, as the driver described, tall and thin, like a cotton swab, so the killer drove to follow the woman all the way. While waiting for the red light, he wanted to do it directly, but heard the siren nearby. He changed his mind. He put away the gun. The killer continued to follow her and came to a high-end restaurant. This time, he directly sat across from Sister Cotton Swab and quickly took the pistol from her bag. Seeing the killer, Bianchin was instantly panicked. Various possibilities flashed through her mind. Finally, she realized the killer would not let her go. So she kept talking to buy time and asked the waiter to serve the most expensive wine, saying she wanted to enjoy it before she died. During the conversation, she said she was just doing it for money and she had no personal grudge with him. Obviously, Sister Cotton Swab has charisma. She talked about her experience, trying to poke the killer's sympathy. But the killer looked at him from the wound. Maybe in another scene, they could have been frank, but at this moment, the killer could only be his enemy. Later, Sister Cotton Swab said he wanted to take a walk by the river before dying. The killer fulfilled his wish, but when he went down this, he accidentally slipped and fell. As the killer he hid a dagger in his hand. If he had felt a little sympathy, he might be lying on the ground now instead of him. After completing his revenge, the killer took his girlfriend away. Finally, he could enjoy the sunshine, beach and sea safely.